Okay, so I'm just going to do a slightly different intro today because I'm going to stream this a little bit differently from how I normally do. So you could just cut out the part about doing this on my personal profile versus in my group. So I will just say that before we get started. Okay, hello. So I normally, if I live stream, this is going to be a podcast recording. And if I live stream a podcast recording, I typically do this to into my Facebook group. But I decided to do this from my personal profile today, simply because we have a challenge and another live training going on over in the Facebook group later today. So here we are. So what I want to talk to you guys about today is how to know you're ready to make the leap and start a coaching business. Okay, because here's the thing. I have some maddening conversations with people all the time, right? Who they literally will reach out to me for help. They will ask questions. These are going to be like newer coaches just getting ready to get started. They'll ask questions and then they ultimately decide for whatever reason that they're not ready to start their business. And that's kind of a whole other topic of conversation. I call that latering your business. And if you really truly want anything in life, whether it's to get healthy and fit or to build a business, you do it now. You don't later it for any reason. There's literally no reason unless like someone is like really sick or dying. Okay. That's the only reason to put things off. But I want to just give you a little bit more context about being ready to start a coaching business today. Okay. And I want to just put some perspective to that. So, before I actually even found the health and fitness industry, I had a really significant commitment to learning and to higher education before I knew what else was available. Right. So I went to undergrad, I went to graduate school. I had dreams of being a professor and doing research and like always being in that state. But I didn't know what else was available to me at that time. I was also an employee and I didn't go all in on myself and on my business in many different cases until I already was having my back against the wall. So when I was an employee, the last job that I had, I was at for 3.5 years. And the last like year to year and a half were absolutely miserable until I hit this breaking point and I left, right? And so again, I was committed to this higher education. I was an employee. I've been employees many different times in my life. And it was like these moments where I learned that something else was available or my back was against the wall that I actually started to make change, right? And it was kind of the same thing happened when I went to start my fitness boot camp. I had just moved. I was in a small town where I didn't know anyone before. And I was like, okay, well, this has to work, right? My back was against the wall. There was nothing else that I can do. And so for me, what I know is that we're never ready, right? We're never ready to start a business. We're never ready to do big change, to invest money, to take our life in a completely different direction, right? Like humans are actually anti-change. That's how our brains are wired. And so we can come up with all of these reasons that we're not ready to make the leap and start a coaching business. And it's going to feel valid and it's going to feel real. But what I know from personal experience and from working with so many other people, that oftentimes it takes like a major breaking point where your back is up against the wall, or maybe it's in a more positive light. Like I discovered other things were available than me just focusing my whole life on higher education when I really wanted location freedom, right? And so you've got to kind of think back to different points in your life. And we all have to make really difficult decisions in a variety of ways throughout our lives. It's just the nature of being human. And so you've got to think about, okay, what were those little scenarios that popped up or big scenarios that popped up that caused me to make a change? Because you're never ready, and change can happen by force or when you decide that the pain of staying the same is greater than your fear of change. And that's really, really, really important. Let me just say that again. Change can happen by force or when you decide that the pain of staying the same was greater than your fear of change. And we've talked about fear a lot on this podcast, right? Like fear of failure, doubting ourselves, having all the imposter syndrome thoughts. And here's the thing is when all of that's coming up for you, but you really do want to have this business of your dreams that gives you the lifestyle that you want and the impact that you want, but you don't move toward it, the only reason you wouldn't move toward it is because you are already assuming failure. Okay. So let's break that down just a little bit. So if you have, let's say you wanted to invest some money to get your business started, right? But it's what you perceive to be a lot of money. And so you don't do it and then you don't start your business. Well, you already decided that it wasn't going to work, because if you believed that it was going to work and that you could have this business that you wanted, of course you would invest some money because you'd make so much more back, right? It's like if you're miserable in a job and you really want to have this business, but you don't make the leap, it's because you are assuming you cannot be successful in your business. Because if you knew without a doubt that you were going to make your dream come true, of course you would go all in. Hesitation only comes from your doubt, you guys. And sometimes I see this happen a lot. People can kind of convince themselves that, oh, it's not that important. It'll be too much work. It'll cost too much money. It'll take too much time. It's not the right timing in my life, all of that stuff, right? Same stuff that health and fitness coaching clients would say. But the truth is, and you need to understand this from a biological perspective, the truth is that these are just lies that your brain feeds you to keep you safe and to keep you from taking new action, because that is literally what your brain is designed to do. Because your many millennia old human brain is not adapted to the current state of the world we live in. It is not prepared to do the big and hard and scary things that change brings on and that business requires. And so it's going to tell you all of those stories. And 95% of people will believe those stories to be true. 5% will hear those stories and they'll push through it and they'll create something really extraordinary, right? You need to understand that from a biological perspective, your brain is risk averse, but you and your mind is what has logic and reason and the ability to plan. Your brain itself, this biological component that we all have, is risk averse, but your mind can't be. If you truly want to create something extraordinary, you have to learn to differentiate the stories that your brain's going to feed you to keep you small and safe from what you actually desire and what's actually is possible for you. So, how do you decide when you're ready to start this coaching business? First thing is you better drop the expectation that you're actually going to feel ready. Okay. Because if you think that everything in life is just going to line up and it's going to be like, here it is, here's the opportunity, it's perfect, everything's in line, you're going to be disappointed, right? And you would say the same thing to your coaching clients as well. So the first step is dropping the expectation that you're actually ever going to feel ready. And the second thing is to expect all the questions, all the fear, all of the discomfort to be very loud. It's going to be very loud. All the reasons you can't, all the reasons you're going to fail, all the things other people are going to think about you. All of that's going to get incredibly loud in your mind. All right. And I want you to know that all of it's normal. Okay. So if you can drop the expectation that you're ever actually going to feel ready, and you can expect all of this loud noise in your head telling why you can't, and just know that that's normal, what will happen is that you can see it for what it is. And you can even thank your brain for trying to keep you safe as you move into doing the thing anyway. So in your personal life, in your professional life, you'll feel heaviness, right? You'll feel burnt out. You'll feel miserable in the day to day. You're going to have a nagging feeling that something needs to change, but you're scared. Like this is often how people decide to launch their coaching business, is because something in their personal or professional life is very heavy. They feel burnout. They feel miserable in the day to day, and they just have this feeling that something needs to change. But at the same time, you're very, very scared, right? Like all that normal stuff that we just talked about. It could be a complete career change, or it could be something smaller, like transitioning away from in-person coaching to online because you want a different life, a different setup. And if you're amazing at what you do, or you're very insecure, so if you're amazing at what you do, but you feel this like insecurity around it, and you can feel almost like the passion draining from you, it's time for a change. And if you're doing things or servicing people in a certain way because you think you need to, or you're afraid to say no to money, and you're denying yourself the things that you desire as a result, it's time to change. Okay. And you're going to recognize the breaking point because the stress, the fear, the doubt, and the anxiety tend to become very extreme. And it can be terrifying for us to experience, right? Because this is your brain like, hey, warning, warning, warning. And beware that once you get very clear about what you want and you declare it, the universe starts to move things around to bring it into reality. Okay. So if you get clear on what you want and you declare it and you say, this is what I'm creating, the universe is going to start to help bring that into into your reality. And now that sounds really good, right? But actually, all of the shifts are going to bring up all of your deepest fears. And they are going to test you in ways that you cannot even imagine. It's not going to feel easy. It never feels easy. Making big changes and creating something extraordinary never feels easy. And in fact, most people will self-sabotage the universe's efforts on your behalf with your decisions and actions and free will that make you retreat. Okay. So what I mean by that is, let's say you get really clear on what you want. You start telling people that you're creating it. You start to take the steps toward that. The universe starts to open up opportunities for you, and just things start to happen on your behalf on this thing that you say you desire, but you get scared, and the decisions and the actions that come from that fear cause you to really take a step back, right? And basically then you're just closing the door on what you started to create if you don't follow through because fear stops you. And most coaches with big dreams will never realize their dreams for this reason. They'll say things to themselves like, oh, it wasn't meant for me. Oh, that's available for others, but it's not for me. Or the time isn't right. Or my family needs me more. Or it's too risky. Or I need to take more care of my health. Or, in-person coaching is more real and reliable. And none of those things are facts, right? They're just stories that you're choosing to believe as truth, because life is not an either or, it's an and, right? Okay, maybe you need to take care of your health, and you can also build a successful business. Maybe your family needs you and you're already super busy, and you can build a successful business, right? It's just the stories that you choose to tell yourself, that you choose to believe as truth. Okay. We've talked a little bit about how there's a big difference between your thoughts and your stories and facts. And most people don't have the awareness or do the work to start to separate fact from story. And we just believe all these thoughts, all these stories that are constantly coming through our heads. All right. So if you're feeling this inner nagging, if you're feeling maybe the pain of burnout in what you're doing, or the deep desire to do and to have more, that's your signal, my friends. And I just realized I'm like yelling at you, but I'm like talking in a very impassioned way because I'm so tired of seeing coaches back down on their own dreams because of all of these things that I just talked about. And the thing you need to know is that change can happen in really big moments, right? Like you quit a job on the spot, or you get fired or something like that, right? Or, someone in your family, God forbid, dies, right? Big things can happen that force us to change. But a lot of the time, change happens in very, very subtle ways. And most of us just aren't listening closely enough or trusting ourselves enough to lean in, right? It's like you say you want the thing, the opportunity presents itself, but we choose the opposite instead because of the fear. It's those very subtle moment to moment decisions that you make that ultimately add up to your success or your failure in business or getting started even in the first place. And I just think that this is so important, you guys, because if you are latering your business for any reason other than like death or extreme sickness, it's giving up your dream, right? Let's call it for what it is. It's literally giving up your dream. And it's also letting down your soulmate clients, because there are people out there who can only have transformation when they work with you specifically. So what I wanted you to take from this podcast today about how to know you're ready to make the leap and start a coaching business is that Number one, drop the expectation that you're going to feel ready. Number two, expect all the fear and discomfort to come up. And step three, it's do it anyway, right? Because there's a lot of people dabbling in the coaching industry who say they kind of want to do it. They have one foot in, one foot out. They don't invest in themselves. They're wishy-washy. They're in and they're out, or they're spending years thinking about this stuff. And the space doesn't have room for people like that. It has room for the 5% who commit, who go all in, who do the thing in the most powerful way, who expect that they're not going to feel ready, but they do it anyway, who feel all the fear, the uncertainty, the doubt, the imposter syndrome, and they do it anyway. For the people who are incredibly busy, as we all are, for the people whose health is at 100%, whatever, but they do it anyway. Okay, my friends. And I know this might, I don't know if this is like going to be received a little bit harsh, but I just felt like it was really important for me to speak the truth around this, because I've seen this now over and over and over again, both with my health and fitness coaching clients that I used to train, as well as business clients and prospective business clients that I talk to on a really regular basis. Okay. So I would love for you to let me know how this resonates with you. You can do that by jumping on over into my free Facebook group. It's Authentic Conversion, Organic Six-Figure Fitness Business. And I would love to cheers you to taking the leap, building an incredible coaching business. And I'll talk to you soon.